Welcome, guys, to another video. There's been quite a bit of speculation about the potential hire of Warren Sapp coming on board with Coach Prime at Colorado University, at the University of Colorado. And some of you guys already probably know why why it's taken so long. And I initially knew what Prime was trying to do by hiring a fellow, NFL Hall of Famer on the team. It gives the coaching staff as a whole more credibility to have guys who've done it on the highest level. It also gives them the insight into things that the non-athlete or the non-player doesn't have. I know previously I would tell you guys that sometimes coaches who have not played are a little bit more cerebral because they spent so much time watching the game that they could give a lot of their energy and focus on the X's and O's and the schematic parts of the game, the schematic components. However, I also think there's also good in getting players who've played at the highest level and who've dominated, on the highest level as well. I know as a young athlete, I would be enthused to have a Hall of Famer coach me, motivate me. So I was really excited about him coming, Warren Sapp, but it just seems like there's certain things that are blocking this from happening, things that are outside of Coach Prime's control for sure. I'm going to read this article that was written January 13th, 2024. That's why this is not really breaking news. This is just something I wanted to share with you guys and read it and give you guys my personal take on it. So I'm going to read it briefly. It says that Deion Sanders wants to hire Warren Sapp at Colorado, but Sapp's history raises concerns. It says Colorado head coach football Deion Sanders has confirmed at least twice since November that Pro Football Hall of Famer Warren Sapp would be joining the staff in Boulder. Okay, so he's very excited about that. He calls Sapp a teddy bear, quote unquote, a teddy bear with a wealth of knowledge. And he does. And if you hear Warren Sapp speak about the game of football, you know he has a wealth of knowledge. This is not just some jock without the light bulb upstairs. He has both components for him. There seems to be some sort of like misnomer that if you are, a highly, gifted athlete, that you may not be able to be cerebral enough to think the game, because you predicated a lot of your success on your athletic prowess. But we see that's not necessarily true. We know LeBron James, for an example. He's a physical specimen, but he still has the ability to think the game, to think. He thinks ahead. He even knows what plays opposing teams are going to do. So you could throw it out the window. I think Warren Sapp would have been a good hire. Would have been a good addition to the coaching staff. Already knowing that they've lost quite a few coaches this past year. So Coach Prime calls Sapp a teddy bear with a wealth of knowledge that will benefit his players after a 13-year career in the NFL. But Sapp also has another history involving violence against the women that has raised concerns in Colorado at the same time, leading to questions about his hiring there and how the university would address it after a previous scandal there led to pledges of no tolerance for domestic violence. So it's not as if Colorado needs any more publicity. They're already getting it. But then, trying to bring on a guy like Warren Sapp with his history, is going to just bring more attention to his team. Not necessarily positive attention, because now you're going to have people who are out there, protesting. Everybody has to try to make things political. It can't just be, hey, Coach Prime is just trying to get the best coaches he can to help his team be successful. It can't be about that. It always has to be something else. But I don't think that this was about that. I really think that Coach Prime is really just trying to bring in a guy that he thinks could be very beneficial to his team. But we always know that in life, it's not that simple. People more likely than not love to just bring in your past and put it into the current to try to confuse things even more. Um, okay, reading along here, it says that in 2017, it says that Colorado's then head coach and athletic director and chancellor were punished after an investigation found they mishandled domestic violence allegations involving a previous assistant football coach. So this is a very, sticky situation for Coach Prime. Like I said, it's not in his control. He can want to hire somebody, but I think the University of Colorado may override whatever he wants as a coach. Warren Sapp may not be on the staff this coming year, but we'll see. It says the university still never confirmed Sapp's hiring and gave this response Friday. And being asked about it by USA Today Sports, they said, quote, "There have been no conversations about hiring Warren Sapp for an assistant coach position at the University of Colorado," said Steve Hurlbert, spokesman for Colorado University Boulder. USA Today, end quote. USA Today Sports then asked if there were conversations about hiring Sapp for any job there. And they said, quote, "Not at this time." That's what they replied. And Herbert also said Sanders isn't going to comment beyond what he's already publicly said about Sapp, which included him saying he was excited about Coach Sapp joining the staff. It's not clear what job that Prime had in mind for Sapp at Colorado, or if Sanders was waiting for an opening on his staff before having conversations with the university about hiring him. Sapp didn't return a message seeking comment. His potential hiring has led organizations that support domestic violence survivors in Colorado to express concern. So here we go. It's in this life, there's just certain things that you do that people won't let go. There's a lot of things people will forgive. There's just certain things you do that will follow you for the rest of your life. It's almost like a felony. Like, it will not leave you. It's just unfortunate because there are many mistakes that we've made in our past. Our mistakes are not put on it's not put on for the public to absorb it and critique it and make their own personal judgments about us. But we all have our history. We all have our past. It's just unfortunate that whatever Sapp did in regards to domestic violence, it's not looking good for him right now. His potential hiring has led organizations to support domestic violence survivors in Colorado to express concern. Quote, "By recruiting someone with a history of public allegations of gender-based violence, including domestic violence, they risk promoting violence rather than speaking out against it," said statement to the USA Today Sports by Violence Free Colorado, the federally organized anti-domestic violence coalition for the state of Colorado. See, everyone is silent, but everyone waits for their prime opportunity to get their 15 seconds of fame. All these coalitions and organizations and corporations, you don't hear about them. But whenever they can attach themselves to someone that's in the limelight, like a Coach Prime, they're going to take that opportunity to say, "Oh, we're against this." I'm sure Coach Prime is not advocating or promoting domestic violence by trying to hire a coach who has a checkered past. He's hiring him to be a coach. He's not hiring him to be a husband to women or be a boyfriend to any women. He's hiring him to help the football team. But people are gonna, attach themselves to this situation, so people can see, hey, we're championing this cause against domestic. They don't care about that. It's about publicity. Those people, that coalition is a political move. It's not sincere. It's disingenuous to me. I'm not saying domestic violence is right. That's not what I'm saying. It's wrong. However, hiring a man as a coach does not mean that Coach Prime is advocating or promoting it. So what, he can't work? So he can never work again, ever? So if this ex-football player can't help other young men, that's giving back to society. Plenty of times people commit crimes and they say, "We want you to go do community service. Pick up trash, or go speak to little kids about not doing drugs, or go to an AA meeting and talk to people about the dangers of alcohol, or do something with defensive driving to show," something that's related to what you've done. And I think that you know, if Warren Sapp is motivating young men and uplifting young men and getting them to be better football players, in a way, he's giving back to society. He's helping other young men. And he can also speak to them from his experiences about the things he's gone through and certain mistakes that he's made in regard to the domestic realm. So I don't know. I just think that, I mean, so he can never work anywhere. That's crazy. It's crazy. So by recruiting someone with a history of public allegations of gender-based violence, including domestic violence, they risk promoting violence rather than speaking out against it. You can speak out against it. Everyone can speak out against domestic violence, but it shouldn't stop a man from working either. All right, I don't know. That's just my opinion. Reading along here, it says, the federally recognized Anti-Domestic Violence Coalition for the state of Colorado, that's what they said. They go on to say this, quote, they risk saying that violence is excusable if the player or coach is successful. That's not what we're saying. You see, now his success or lack of success on the football field, they're mutually exclusive. They're not tied together. Like, it's just about him working and just being a productive member of society. It has nothing to do with saying, oh, he's successful, so it's okay for him to beat women. Wow, I don't even know how they got there, but this is the kind of logic that people have today, and that's what upsets me. Anyway, it says, they risk saying that violence is excusable if the player or coach is successful. They risk undermining the public work Colorado University has done to speak out against domestic violence. As advocates, we know the answer is not to ignore the allegations against Mr. Sapp, but to address them head on. Okay, you can address it. But at some point, we move on from it, right? If he's indicted, or it says here, hold on, allegations. So these are just allegations. So nothing has been actually proven, right? Allegations. That's what I see here. Anyway, reading along, it says, why does Deion Sanders want to hire Warren Sapp? It says Sapp is 51 years old. He's a dear friend of his who visited Sanders at Colorado last year and hit it off with the Colorado players because of his football reputation, affable personality, and experience as a dynamic defensive lineman. You got to understand, when you think of Warren Sapp, and Coach Prime almost have the same magnetic personalities. They're very flamboyant. They're full of character. They're full of enthusiasm. They're full of energy. And when they speak, people listen. And I think this would have been a great addition to the team. They need any help that they can get, especially on the coaching side. Doesn't matter what position he is. I don't care if he's a D-line coach or whatever. His presence on the football team would be immeasurable. But I think this being blocked it's actually, to me, it would be a huge drop off if they can't get him. But if they can get him, it'll be a great addition to the team. I really think so. It goes on to say here that it's not clear if Sanders knew about Sapp's history off the field. He hasn't addressed it publicly. And that's not for Sanders to address publicly. That's for the courts. That's for the investigators. That's on that side. Coach Prime is just a football coach. He's just trying to coach football and get the best coaches he can to help his team win. That's it. But Sanders previously has spoken about showing grace to those who make mistakes and not letting those mistakes define their lives. And that's what I'm saying. Because I know I've made mistakes. We all have. But it's crazy in this world. There's certain things that you do that people will not let go. They won't. It becomes a circus, especially it becomes all political. It's nothing that they do is actually genuine. It's just a way for people to get their names out there and people to use your ambition and your drive to, accelerate your life or move yourself forward. They use that as an opportunity to pounce like a leech, to just latch on and suck you dry. And they make a mockery out of you. It becomes a circus. It becomes a political circus where everything is publicized now. Oh, Deion Sanders is promoting domestic. Next, they're going to have an article saying that Coach Prime promotes domestic violence. This is what they do. They just keep the rotation of stupidity just rolling. It's amazing. All right, reading along here, it says, quote, he has so much to give, man. This is what Coach Prime is saying. He says, he has so much to give, man, and I can't wait to see him on a daily basis, Sanders says. So you can see the excitement coming from Coach Prime about Warren Sapp. Eisen, this is, I think this is on the Rich Eisen show. This Rich Eisen, the show's host didn't mention Sapp's history, but asked Sanders, is he going to join your staff? Is that going to happen? That will happen. So he asked the question to Coach Prime, and Coach Prime responds and says, "It better happen." Sanders replied. Sanders, who also is a Pro Football Hall of Famer, previously told Eisen that Sapp wants to coach on this staff. It's a match made in heaven. He's not even trying to entice Warren Sapp to come on the team and beg him, "Hey man, I need your help. Come on the team." Warren Sapp wants to be there, and Coach Prime wants him there. So it's a match. It's a synergistic match already before the season even starts. There's nothing more great than a person that wants to be part of your organization and the organization wants you to be part of it. It's perfect. It's a perfect blending. It's a perfect connection there. And I really, really like that. They're hitting it off at the right point, but I just hope he gets in. But I don't know how this domestic stuff is going to work. Read on here. Say he made, read on here, part of his staff. So reading along, he made similar comments on his weekly radio show in November when asked about Sapp joining him at Colorado. "I'm excited about Coach Sapp," Sanders said then. What were the allegations against Warren Sapp? So in 2015, he pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor domestic battery in Las Vegas after being accused by his girlfriend of biting her, throwing her on the floor, and stepping on her head. He avoided a jail sentence by agreeing to a plea deal that included requirements that he undergo counseling. Okay. Before that, he was fired from his job as an analyst at the NFL Network after being arrested on misdemeanor charges of assaulting and soliciting a prostitute in Phoenix that same year. He pleaded guilty in that case, but also avoided jail time in a plea deal that would dismiss the charges after completing terms of the agreement. In 2010, he was charged with the misdemeanor of domestic battery in Miami Beach. The victim had bruises on her neck and a swollen knee after saying Sapp threw her down and started to choke her, according to the records in the case. That charge was dropped by prosecutors who said they found inconsistencies in the woman's statements and the evidence. In a separate civil lawsuit in 2017, Sapp and the other NFL Network employees were accused by a former NFL Network wardrobe stylist of inappropriate conduct and sexual harassment. Sapp allegedly urinated in front of the stylist, Jamie Cantor, according to her lawsuit, which stated he also gave Cantor sex toys as a Christmas gift 3 years in a row, showed her pictures of women he had relations with, and openly talked about his sex life in front of her. Cantor resolved the case against the NFL Network with a settlement in 2018. Sapp said in a radio interview in 2017 that there was no sexual harassment and characterized the sex toys as harmless fun. Did Warren Sapp pay his debt to society? He did, completing his terms of the plea deal in Las Vegas, including domestic violence counseling, 48 hours of community service, and having no contact with a woman, according to the court records. He is free to find work where he can get it, but the issue is whether a higher standard applies in a high-profile coaching position at a major public university, especially one that went through a scandal over how it handled domestic violence allegations against a previous assistant football coach. University officials, so when they're talking about the previous coach, they're talking about the previous coach who coached at Colorado. I forgot his name. He went to Michigan State. That was the one that got caught into another scandal. So it's real murky. This situation is really bad. It's just the wrong timing, because if you got rid of a guy, like if a guy who used to coach at your team went to another school and has some, not domestic violence stuff, but some inappropriate relationship kind of stuff going on, whether the guy is proven guilty or not, I think he's been absolved because they found some evidence that the girl who's alleging that, she was sexually harassed, that her evidence is she's basically lying. Just to be simple, just make it simple. She's lying. There were text messages that were found, and he's going to be vindicated. That coach, I don't know his name. He's no longer the Michigan State head coach. He's going to be vindicated. But whenever your name is already put out there, you're already guilty before proven innocent. That's just the way it is in our society. If your name's attached to anything that's domestic, or anything that deals with sexual harassment, or anything that deals with anything like even grape, the word that rhymes with grape, if you are associated with any of those things, the fact that your name is actually implied, you're already done. The public is already going to look at you a certain way. So knowing that, and then knowing that there's a history in Colorado with how they handled past domestic allegations in the wrong way, and now you're bringing in a guy who has some domestic allegations, it's just too much right now. I don't know how Colorado University is going to handle that, but we'll see. It says university officials back then pledged to do better to raise awareness of domestic violence. So if they made a pledge back then and they're going to hire a guy, Warren Sapp, who has these allegations against him, that it's not a good look for the university. So we'll see. Not tolerated and reform policies to prevent it. So it says university officials back then pledged to do better to raise awareness of domestic violence, not tolerated, and reform policies to prevent it. Sapp's history is very concerning, said Ann Tapp, executive director of the Safe House Progressive Alliance for Nonviolence, which provides shelter and support for domestic violence survivors in Boulder. Of course, people do change and shouldn't be judged by past allegations, but I would hope that questions related to Sapp's treatment of women and his ability to serve as a positive role model for the young men he'd be coaching would be part of a vetting process. What was the previous domestic violence case at CU? So this is what happened before Coach Prime even got to Colorado University. He says in December 2016, less than 3 weeks before the Buffaloes were scheduled to play in the Alamo Bowl, the former girlfriend of assistant coach Joe Tumpkin told the Colorado head coach Mike McIntyre that Tumpkin had physically and emotionally abused her for 2 years. McIntyre reported it to athletic director Rick George, who reported it to the chancellor of Phil DiStefano. But an investigation later found that they violated university policy by not reporting it to the university's Office of Institutional Equity and Compliance. DiStefano, George, and McIntyre each took steps that had the effect of insinuating the conduct or insulating the conduct. So they're trying to keep it inside, not let it out, rather than elevating it to the appropriate campus resources so that any risk to individual or campus safety or to university mission posed by the allegations or by Tumpkin could be fairly and impartially evaluated. The investigative report said Tumpkin was even allowed to coach in the Alamo Bowl and was essentially promoted to call plays in the game 9 days after a temporary restraining order was granted against him. After the allegations became public in early 2017, Tumpkin resigned. He later pleaded guilty to misdemeanor, third-degree domestic violence assault, and was sentenced to 30 days in jail. All right? So DiStefano was suspended for 10 days and pledged to donate his salary for that period to programs that support the students and employees in Colorado University Boulder community who have been affected by domestic violence. George and McIntyre were fined $100,000 each and donated it to organizations that support domestic violence survivors. Violence Free Colorado invited Colorado University and Deion Sanders to begin a real dialogue about the matter if it moves forward with hiring Sapp at some point. It would be easy for Colorado University to ignore public allegations of abuse, to deny them, or to say they are in the past and move on. The organization said in a statement, "We urge Colorado University instead to use this moment to talk openly about the long history of domestic violence in sports." So then again, it's political. We're going to use your situation. If you're trying to get a coach to your team, we're going to use you guys as a stepping stool or a platform builder to speak about domestic violence. And not only are you speaking out against it, it actually promotes our organization. It actually promotes our organization as well. So to me, again, it's a political move. And we all know it's wrong, but use your platform to talk about it. I mean, it's always being talked about. Domestic violence is something that's talked about every day. I don't think that Coach Prime and the coaches and the university speaking about it is going to make people stop. It just brings more awareness to it, but it doesn't stop people's behavior. I don't know. It's just a circus. It's a circus to me. I don't think that any of this actually matters. But hey, what do I know? So there you go. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think eventually that they'll allow Warren Sapp to be a coach with Prime working with those young men at Colorado, or do you think that this is something that's not going to happen? Tell me what you guys think. Leave a comment. Thank you guys for listening. All right, bye.